Welcome to NXT Health. I'm Dr. Smita, your host. Today, we are recording a podcast with Dr. Reinhard Hiller. He's a co-founder of Formula 100 Health, a longevity company with an absolutely different approach. Instead of clinics and supplements, they are implementing evidence-based longevity science directly into resorts, retirement homes, and hotels. We talk about longevity science, digital twin, AI in healthcare, and what exactly it takes to live for 100 years. Let's get into it. Good afternoon, Dr. Hiller, and welcome to NXT Health. And we'll be speaking about Formula 100. Welcome on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Smita, Dr. Karpate. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Longevity, I am involved in longevity related. I started with my own personal journey. I wanted to live for 100 years. I think that's where the Formula 100 name is also coming from. I happened to talk to a couple of companies in India, started my NMN journey. So a little bit of a longevity, I understand, but what you're doing is very different approach. So we'll start with the first question. What exactly is Formula 100?
Yeah, firstly, it's interesting what you're saying about your own personal journey, right? So Formula 100 is a co-creation of three individuals who have expertise and experience in healthcare, in different fields of healthcare. So it's myself. I've got originally a degree in genetics, and then went into startups. I built medical devices and laboratories where we did a lot of genome sequencing and these types of things, and then later went on to lead precision medicine at a large hospital group, and also was part of the innovation effort there. And the other two founders are both doctors, one of whom is Julian Fleming. He's has a very strong background in digital transformation and has been running digital transformation at various large hospital groups and healthcare providers. And the third member is Dr. Anna Erath, and she's the strong practicing doctor element in the team, and she's also, let's say, officially the chief medical officer of the company. So, and all of us unites, I think, a strong interest in this topic from a personal point of view. So we are very aware of our own health and how we go about it and how we can optimize it. And then I think we're coming from our perspective as having worked in healthcare as it is today, and the gaps and challenges that we see in the existing healthcare system and what we want to change and how we feel about that change. And the third element is obviously the demographic, the developments that we're seeing in terms of people getting older, aging, and younger generations are sort of not as plenty as they were, and all of that has a compelling effect on our ability, I think, as mankind, if you like, to go forward. So we teamed up and said, look, we wanna actively contribute and work in that space. And what we identified as a core problem is that there's many companies, many organizations who want to go into longevity. They have an interest, but they often don't know how. And that is often related to the fact there is a lot of information out there in the public domain. Often it's of dubious quality, or you at least for the people who are not involved in the space per se, they don't know how to differentiate and they don't know what to believe. So there's a quality problem, and then there's obviously a capacity and a know-how problem in how to implement and in a particular setting. And when I say organizations and companies, we target specifically hotels and resorts, so hospitality industry. We also specifically target retirement homes, assisted living old age homes, because that's a specific, very interesting context in terms of longevity. And I would say generally any type of business, large employers who have an interest in kind of improving their employee health and well-being and have an interest in developing longevity solutions. So that's largely the three types of companies who we support in terms of developing longevity solutions.
Got it. But when I look at longevity, usually the approach of longevity companies that we see it in the in US or even globally, they either go with the supplements or do they try to establish their own center, which will have all the biohacking techniques that are over there, and usually goes more into recovery and more of a predictive analysis than actually any kind of implementation. And these are the conventional paths that we have seen. Consulting is something that I think it's very unique approach. So do you operate with some fundamental basis that this is how the longevity needs to be implemented into the system? Or are you providing a very customer based kind of a solution, like SaaS kind of a model that you're working with in when you do consulting for longevity?
Okay, so the first point of departure for us is that we are the way when we look at the space, and you're actually right. I mean, you made some good observations, you gave some good examples there. But the typical, or often a typical use case is that people set up a capex intensive clinic. So and that comes with a number of challenges. I mean, it costs a lot of money to implement. It costs a lot of money to run. It's location dependent. So you have to choose a good location. That's a model that often works for, let's say you have a clinic that is already in a location. They sometimes add longevity into their existing value proposition, or you might have a hotel with a particular footprint. Our own model is a lot more pragmatic and lean and light. So we're actually saying, look, if you want, we can design a clinic as well, but you don't have to. You can go into longevity with some very simple things. You could take a few things. So you could say, use a particular type of blood tests to assess certain parameters that you're interested in. Look at certain physiological markers. We often and usually recommend VO2 max as a key variable, and then include and incorporate some assessments that, let's say, test function. So that could be a sit to stand or a grip strength or certain things that are very easy to implement. So, and then when we talk to individual organizations, we look at their existing footprint. So we're saying, okay, look, what is the expertise? What is the surrounding? What is the context that you already have? Because some people they could have 500 square meters available and they don't know what to do with that. Or in other cases, it's 50 square meters. But in each one of those, you can actually design and think about what could longevity look like. And then it's not just about because that's another caveat that most of the time people struggle with. It's very assessment heavy. So you can go into these centers and you can go through, spend 2 hours, a half day, or even a day. And then you do all of those assessments and what happens next. And so for us, it's also very much about the whole user experience. What is the whole user journey? For hotels, for example, or resorts, it's moving away from anecdotal engagement. So I'm going to spend a night in a hotel, maybe once off, but you move towards a lifetime value type of proposition related to clients, and you kind of acquire them and maintain a relationship with them. And that's what longevity can give you. Then just quickly on your comment about the SaaS model. Well, we work with a software company to support what we're doing, and we can offer that too, depending on what is required. I mean, it really depends. So some organizations do have their own means of creating dashboards or front ends for customers. We're completely pragmatic and practical about that. We're less prescriptive than really situationally aware and contextually designing into an existing environment to kind of facilitate longevity solutions.
And it might be a generic question, but I still want to ask is usually with two doctors and one PhD in genetics would rather go to probably clinics and hospitals, but you are primarily catering to the resorts and hotels and then the retirement homes. So why not clinics and hospitals?
There's a number of reasons for that. So with the traditional, let's say the incumbent providers in healthcare, they have taken a particular position and have a particular value proposition. They've got a particular staff complement and all of that. It's often, for various reasons, difficult for them to expand into longevity because you need to have the right mindset. So, for example, you need to be more proactive than reactive. You need to be interested in prevention than in cure. So these are not polar opposites, but they're different value propositions, and you need to be structured accordingly. So, and often these are models, although it's changing because the traditional healthcare system is under huge pressure because governments all over the world are putting pressure on the healthcare systems to spend less time with inpatients and in acute care, then go into sort of primary care, change the model, right, and have outpatient models and all of that. So there's a lot of pressure already on the system. And then if you take it further, longevity is also is an excess problem. So we're saying if you move on from the traditional contact points and you build more contact points, then it means that it's available for more people. And longevity is also not necessarily a medical problem, it's a lifestyle problem. So you can also design a different solution and a package around that. So it doesn't necessarily have to sit in a clinic as we have known them. It can if you design it accordingly, but it doesn't have to. And we are thinking very broadly. So the subtext for what we are doing is sort of we're the anywhere, anytime longevity platform because we want to democratize access to longevity.
Correct. Yes, it's there on your website as well, longevity, anywhere, anytime. But when we look at, traditional ecosystem that's available inside the resorts and hospitals are more towards wellness. You have nice good spa, you get like all that pampering treatment, and in India, we have beautiful resorts available here. Now, no matter what, longevity is still a science. There are some efforts, if I talk about like VOMAX 2 or if I talk about my recovery, anything, there are some science and efforts that are required. So how do you convince your hotels and resort people to focus on longevity? Are they reaching out to you or do you have to struggle to explain the science to them?
Okay, so it's a mix. Typically, I mean, it's actually often a mix of things. So we're approached by players, but we also actively, of course, sort of reach out, and it's often a combination of. I mean, there's a commercial marketing and sales sort of business development, if you like, agenda behind it, but there's often also a genuine interest in working with somebody in a particular context. When we look at different sort of providers, and we're thinking, if just imagine what you could and how that could look like, and we go and have a conversation around that. And then it's actually because the hype is really kind of it's heating up, right? So that it's becoming more and more topical. So having a conversation about longevity is not that difficult. And then where we are coming from, because we're saying, look, we are completely evidence-based. We're never going to do anything that we cannot back up by science. And it's very important for most brands because they don't want to have exposure to something that makes them look silly or problematic or creates issues with customers. And so we want to make sure that it's really designed and on evidence basis and it's scientific, but it's also effective. And that's also maybe where yes or no, look, I mean, when you think about the traditional spas who also basically often running longevity as part of their brand or they're adding that to their brand, they offer different things. I mean, it's like when I go to a nice spa and everybody can have a massage and other things like that. It's nice for recovery, but it's not necessarily adding a lot to your longevity because that requires an investment. And so where we are coming from, we're putting a very strong emphasis on exercises, medicine, and diet, for example, to make sure that, and also telling people and saying to people, look, you need to put in some effort if you want to see an effect, because otherwise it's not going to work. I mean, we are not in a position where you can just pop a few pills and hope for a superb outcome. I mean, yes, there's certain things that you can do that support the process, but we really believe strongly in the kind of we want to empower people. And if you start training and behaving in a particular way and it's becoming a habit, then you're on a much better track to really adding years to your life, as they say, right? So we're really interested in that health span improvement.
Yeah, I get that. And is it a massive investment for the resorts and hotels to consider longevity as one of the service they would like to offer, or is it just an extension to their existing, probably a gym, spa, and swimming pool, and probably a diet? I don't think they think about it, but how exactly it works for your customers?
Yeah, so often it is really just that. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, there's one customer. I mean, look, this is let's say a hotel, but it's almost like a generic example. And most hotels have existing amenities that you can use and you can repurpose for longevity programs. I mean, there's often you find there's a gym, and then there's a massage room, some have physiotherapy. It depends really what is available. And so we typically go and say, okay, look, take the 5 elements that you already have. How can I position them in a workflow that is a program, and what is it that I can achieve with that? And that's really how we go about it. We're not going in to say, look, you need to, I don't know, you need to have not everybody needs to have a DEXA or not even an MRI, but it's a bit extreme, but all kinds of very expensive pieces of equipment. There's even, when you think about VO2 max as a really important physiological measure of longevity, there's devices these days that are portable that can, and I'm not talking about wearables, but more medical grade devices that measure VO2 max as well. And so you don't necessarily even need a bike or an ergometer to do all of that. And so it's that's how we approach the question or the challenge in designing and implementing and running these programs, I think. And then we have coming in from a, let's say, lean product development, startup development angle. So we're saying, look, let's test and trial and experiment and see how it goes. So you take it easy, take it lean, build it one step at a time. If you are more conservative and sort of you don't want to overinvest because you don't know exactly where things go, because not only is it the building or the designing, you need to implement, you need to resource it, and then you need to run it, and all of that requires time and money, right? So yes, again, of course, like if somebody comes and says, look, I mean, we have some discussions about that too. If somebody comes and says, yeah, I want to, there's a greenfield project and I want to build a whole building and the clinic, fair enough. Yes, you can do that too. And because we've got the healthcare background and worked in hospitals and all of that, so we can look at it from different angles. But our first, I think, preference would be to keep it simple and lean and not overdo it.
Yeah. And how is it for the customer of your customers? Like, how is it for the guest? Usually there are two kinds of resorts that are there: holiday resorts and then the business hotels. Those who are slightly luxury. Now, those who are coming for business, they are very focused. They may have some evening free or probably a day or two. But when it is about holiday, then probably they have time. So are you approaching only the resorts and hotels, those who are focused on the luxury and holidays and vacation plans, or is it also for the business hotels?
Yeah, so it's also interesting because, look, the one can lead to the other. So sometimes we have discussions about short stay packages that are really aimed at like the casual sort of, let's say, holiday, even a family or sort of a holiday maker or somebody who comes in for just a few days or maybe a week or something like that. But then we've also got cases where it's really about long-term stay. And so there are different use cases, of course. I mean, so when you think about a situation where people live in the same hotel or in the same place for like very long time, you can design programs completely different from short-term stay. But the idea is actually that the requirement or the desire actually of having these short-term packages is actually to have people come back more often. So basically, then you can actually you can offer different options and packages where one can lead to the other. So it really depends on how you structure it. So it's very bespoke, very very individualized depending on the context. But typically from hotels, hospitality want to differentiate, adding this as a new value proposition or adding it to their value proposition and making sure that they maintain relationships with their customers so that they come back. So it's not just a once-off and that kind of stuff, right?
No, that's beautiful. I'm sure that it must be adding a good revenue to their existing business, and hotels must be, it must be a good response to what you're offering to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the interest is growing, and we've got. I mean, we also work. It's very interesting. So we work with different organizations, right? There's different brands and different organizations who are interested in longevity, and there's actually we don't, like I said, we don't have a specific one model. We design protocols and programs around what the context offers and or may require, right?
Yeah. Now I have seen that you are working across like Cape Town and then London, Zurich, Dubai. Do you think that how's the market responding? Is it different for different countries, cities, or is it the same longevity approach that everyone is taking?
No, it's very different. I think, one of the reasons why we're so interested in having that exposure is mainly because it allows us actually to have completely different conversations. So in South Africa, for example, people are a lot more cost conscious. Trust is another big factor because there's all kinds of players who come into the market and offer things that maybe lack evidence and all of that. And so there's also a particular socioeconomic context that you need to take into account. How the country does from an economic point of view, what the affordability looks like, and all of that. So you need to design around that, and then it depends on whether you want to position something as let's say, medical tourism activity. That's completely different from offering something to the majority of people living in the country. I mean, I suppose it would be very similar. I'm not familiar with India, but you could have a beautiful resort somewhere in India that caters to the needs of tourists coming in, which is one value proposition. But if you want to offer something to the broader population or people living, it's different. So, and it's these types of conversations that make actually what we do so interesting, because it exposes us to the different needs and it requires us actually to design and redesign offerings and solutions accordingly. When you thinking about so Switzerland, for example, that's a hot market. You've got many players in the sector already, many very, let's say, like prominent for a long time, who have added longevity into their offering, and then a whole bunch of new players. So it's very interesting to watch that space. But again, we are actually thinking that's all good, that's all fine, but because our position is actually, we're not sitting here and have a clinic to run. We're actually quite flexible, and we can work with different players. And similarly, I would say London in particular, but the UK in general as well, and also Dubai, if I use that as a proxy for the UAE, which obviously has different locations as well and different sub markets and segments. But there's a lot of activity in these places, and they often differ in terms of the products that are on offer, right? So I would say, for example, clinics emerging, resorts in Dubai, but also a number of strong players in terms of supplements, for example. So it's a combination of things that are happening in all of those areas. And we look at all of them all the time, and we have interesting conversations with players in all of those markets, actually. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. And do you collaborate with companies, those who are working in longevity space, be it supplements or, there are many good companies, those who are focusing on gut health. There are companies, those who are focusing on diagnostics. Then there are equipment. Then there are cosmetics and products like that. So there are so many people using the word longevity and trying to target same audience, people, those who are interested in living little healthier life. So are you collaborating with other brands?
Yes, we do. I mean, we generally, I would say, and I can give you some specific examples, but I would say we're very open-minded in terms of the products and services that we integrate in what we are doing. And I would say we have running positive lists of providers of, let's say, variables, for example, is an ongoing conversation that we are having. What type of variable would we recommend? Would we recommend a variable? What company would that be? It's a very interesting topic, and same with supplements. Here, it's sometimes location dependent because, let's say in Switzerland, for example, people are very brand conscious, and so they look at quality is a very big factor. So it's either Swiss made or maybe Nordic. So it depends a little bit on the context. So again, we look at the situation, and we basically then determine who to work with. I mean, we've just basically Formula 100 we just made an announcement about partnering with NXT Health in Finland, which is a blood test provider, and we are working on a number of other collaborations to kind of take a particular position in terms of what type of company we work with and what we believe in is going to be the type of application or product that is going to have an effect on longevity going forward. And we're going to add those into our own offering and how we design solutions.
That's interesting. I have few of the guests on our podcast that we have talked in the past, they'll be very happy to talk to you. So, when we talk about longevity, and because I read a lot about longevity, it's very fascinating. There is no like upper limit as of now. Cellular therapy, and we have secretomes, we have iPSC derived cells, all goes into longevity, right? Anything that increases your health span, decreases your disease span, increases your lifespan overall, makes you live little more healthier and happier, even you're like in your 80s or more than that. That whole concept has no upper limit, right? You can do any intervention. What's the cutoff for you? Like, if you are collaborating with people, or if you are integrating science into day-to-day life, I won't call it only the luxury or the resort mindset, but I would call it's getting into the lifestyle of people and making it easy for them to embrace longevity than actually going into the hospital and trying to implement it into your life. So what's the upper limit for you? Like, what do you think that these are the things you won't do?
Okay, so look, I mean, yeah, we wouldn't support anything. We wouldn't kind of maybe associate or support anything that is just purely speculative or unproven scientifically. I mean, look, anything relating to particular stem cell therapies or whatever the case is. So for at least two reasons: one, it could be harmful, and you don't know what the side effects or negative effects could be. And secondly, if the effect size is not known, you could spend a lot of money on that, and you still don't get to the positive outcome. So we really focus on the sort of the nitty gritty, if you like, the very simple things that you can do. I mean, I remember conversations here in Switzerland. I mean, my interest in the space dates back a couple of years, and I've done a lot of work with people who are also on the health coaching side. But I mean, in the country here. So when you think about the simple measure, if you have a couch potato who's never moved a lot, let's say is a bit overweight or very overweight, you already have progress if you move from not taking 1,000 steps to 1,000 steps or 5,000 steps or whatever the case is. So it's very, very practical. So we need to take into account the contextual situation of people. I mean, if you have to commute to a place of work every day and you spend 4 hours in traffic or something like that, and how much time do you have left? What is it that you can actually? This is more on the individual level, right? So it's different when you think about in a spa or in a hotel. I've got people under control. I mean, they're coming in, they're spending time under my roof, and I've got a lot more contextual sort of ability to steer them and influence them in a particular way. It's much harder to actually, in a B2C type of manner, and reach out to people. So that's actually, by the way, the other reason why we like to work with these organizations as partners, because they can design and provide what behavioral economists call choice architecture. So you can actually then design an ecosystem that helps you to make a lifestyle change or behave in a particular way, which is much harder if you take the ordinary person off the street and say, no, I'm telling you, you need to do this, but I've got no clue how to do that. That's also why I think people often, they go for the pill or whatever, so something that is an easy fix, because it's much harder to get up at 4 a.m. or whatever is your flavor, to start running, because that's very hard. And so, but then the question is, okay, do you get the same effect? And most of the time you don't get the same effect, because you need to build your muscle, you need to basically build strength and exercise in a particular way to be healthy. I mean, that's sort of, I think, how I would frame it. So it's always coming back to what is scientific, what has been researched enough so that you actually can point to an effect size, and there's a protocol that says, okay, when you do X, then you get output Y. If that is not there, you can try it for fun if you want, if it's not harmful, but you also don't get an effect and you spend money on it. So look, we don't have necessarily an issue with, so for example, we work with organizations who are deep into cosmetic, sort of in aesthetics. There's nothing wrong with that either. So we are flexible, but as an organization and as individuals, we would not recommend certain things if they don't have that scientific evidence behind it.
No, I understand that, and also lots of clinical trials, other things. When we talk about like Formula 100, currently, if we are speaking, it's a new organization, right? You have started when we talked
Last year.
last year, and
Yeah.
everyone is going behind like building something with AI, building something with technology. So, are you also planning to integrate some technology into Formula 100?
Yeah. Well, I mean, firstly, we are quite tech affine, so we kind of use it all the time. So the way we run the company is very, I mean, I'd say we try to be as AI native as we can. And that is simply a commercial reality. So we want to keep overheads as low as possible. So we kind of we do as much as we can using AI. And that requires some interesting conversations around how to set up workflows and how to use the various models and setting up agentic systems and all of that to support what we do, right? So that's the first one. The second one is then to look at AI as something that you can integrate in software solutions and in platforms that support either the operators of a particular program, let's say a hotel or an individual, and so that could be something like let's say a GPT for health that allows you to analyze data. So there's a few vantage points, perhaps, as far as Formula 100 is concerned. The first one is we are trying to be as AI native as possible. So we're using AI internally to optimize our productivity, let's say, and that is an ongoing conversation about what model to use, what agentic workflows we're building, and how to integrate all of that into our way of working. And that's an interesting project in its own right, because there's this ongoing human in the loop discussion and how to design things around that. So that's the first one. The second one is there's definitely a role to be played by in using AI as part of let's say as a kind of a longevity platform rollout. And so and their AI can play various roles, and certainly in use cases that you already know or many people know. So for example, just note taking, some summarization of things, assisting with the interpretation of data. So there's more and more platforms that are actually moving towards that, to kind of look at single data sets or multimodal data sets that actually allow you to kind of integrate information and then basically come up with a dashboard, or maybe to some extent even a score that allows you to kind of easier interpret. There will also be, in my mind, use cases where you're going to have engagement with avatars. So when you think about more scalable solutions, people, instead of talking to doctors or coaches, they're gonna talk to human-like digital replicas or sort of creations. I think that's another option. And then the third one is the real, because at the beginning we spoke about the digital twin, where you almost like gonna end up in a situation where you have almost like an autonomous AI capacity sitting with you or close to you on a device that has access to all of your data and is able to kind of interpret and engage with you as an individual, as a fully fledged, competent, not necessarily a doctor, but let's say a health coach. And I think that's actually where I think things are going to be heading. So I think that incumbent players and healthcare systems are going to struggle. They're going to continue to struggle with issues of data protection, security, and integrating everything into big ecosystems. And I think there will be a lot of pressure and a lot of activity that actually takes this to the edge, basically of networks and closer to the user. I think so. That's definitely as far as the overall trend is concerned. So from our point of view, again, we're taking a bit of a pragmatic approach here, and we will use it as effectively as we can. That said, we have an ongoing conversation about taking or having our own play in terms of AI and digital twin in particular. So there's some early activities in that regard, but we're not fully there.
Yeah.
And then overall, what is on the cards in general for F100? So I think there's more partnering, specifically for taking positions in certain countries. So we're thinking, if we want to really achieve our goal of longevity anywhere, anytime, we need to put more effort behind it that it actually happens. And so we're going to be less sort of reactive and not fully reactive in terms of because we are obviously actively going and searching for customers, but in building solutions that we believe are going to help us achieve that goal. And with some of the partnerships we've just entered, you will probably hear more about that over the next 6 to 12 months in terms of what we're going to be doing and how we're going to build longevity solutions in particular regions that we think are more effective and are basically kind of a good interpretation and implementation of longevity for a broader array of people and parts of the population.
Definitely looking forward how it evolves. It'll be very interesting case study for me to see how it goes. Fast forward 10 years, where do you think that Formula 100 will be?
Well, firstly, I think we're going to have solidified our position in the markets that we're already operating in. And we will have fully implemented Formula 100 designed and supported solutions in those areas. And I also think that we will have created our own sort of fully fledged platform that is AI supported in basically sort of offering longevity solutions. There's still going to be a focus on businesses, I think, so we're going to be much stronger in that regard, and because we will have learned by that time from the many interactions that we're already having in identifying and building longevity solutions. I think what's interesting about the way we do it, I think we identify opportunities and new opportunities all the time because we have these conversations all the time. So there's also the strong possibility that we're going to have a portfolio of other businesses associated with us because there's just going to be more things that we can do and we would want to do, and we're just going to build it out in a more portfolio type of approach than just doing everything ourselves. But that's maybe in broad brushes or in brush strokes where we're going to be.
I get that. I understand this space well, so I know where it's coming from. Is India there in the list of your expansion?
Not at the moment, but we're always open. We just basically have some early conversations about China. So we're looking at some opportunities there. So there's no limitations really in terms of territory as far as we are concerned.
Okay. And I just have one last question. Whenever we speak about the whole longevity concept, of course, exercise, supplements, diet, all these things are important. But the very important component which comes from all these books that I have read is the purpose. So do you think that what you're building is the purpose, or is there more to what you do in longevity space?
Obviously, I mean, philosophically, I mean, the way I would go about it, and whether you're religious or not, I think everyone who is alive today, it's almost like you have been endowed with an opportunity to live a life of a particular duration, and I think it's a gift that you have received, and I think personally the way I would frame it is like let's make the best use of that, and so it's actually incumbent on us to be as healthy and as able and capable as long as we can to make the most use of what we have received. I mean, that's one way to put it. Then the second one is obviously we know from so many studies that having a particular outlook on life and you can link to that purpose, I think is a very important element in getting things done, because if that could be looking after your children or achieving some other goal, but it's very, very important to have that. And I think that's part of that overall equation. I think it's important to factor that in. So it's not just a mechanical question of how many squats you can do or whether you can get up or you can sleep 7 hours or so. I think that embedding it into the bigger scheme of things is very important. And I think here I would also simply say, look, make use of what you have. I mean, if we also know community is very important. So you may want to be part of a community that makes you feel better, whatever the case is. So all of that needs to be part of a holistic design. But again, that it's a function of what fits in with your personal circumstances and how do you design that. And where you start, you might want to start with purpose before you do anything else, because if without purpose, you may not be able to kind of change your life or lifestyle or implement better, healthier habits. I think it has to be looked at holistically.
Yes, I really wish you all the best. I want your organization to grow. It has different, and it's a great industry to be in. And that's all the question I wanted to ask today. Thank you so much for giving the time to explain what exactly Formula 100 is doing. And I follow you on LinkedIn. I'm definitely going to see how it evolves.
Yeah, thank you very much, Smita. It's really good talking to you, and thanks a lot for the opportunity to be on your podcast. And good luck to you too. And I'm pretty sure we're going to stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And that was Dr. Reinhard Hiller from Formula 100 Health. What I love about this approach is how practical and grounded their approach is. If you liked this episode, share it with someone who's probably building a startup in longevity. Probably someone who believes that health span is more important than lifespan. And until next time, keep watching. I'm Dr. Smita, and this is NXT Health.